pleasure to be here with you. I'm flattered that you would ask me and flattered at the turnout. It's very impressive. Well, like Dan said, we're going to do two things today. We're going to start with the ball and claw foot, and then we're going to talk about shellac and French polish this afternoon. Ball and claw foot, I was just talking to someone. The origin is in the Orient. The design was first done in China, and it was conceived as a dragon's claw holding the pearl of great wisdom, was how it was described in ancient Chinese literature. When the Orient trade started and things started to be brought back from the Orient to Europe, furniture with this design already in it was brought back, and it was first copied by the Dutch, because the Dutch were the famous traders. They were some of the earliest traders and merchants of exotic things, and then spread to the rest of Europe. It was more popular in Dutch and English furniture than it was in French, Italian, or German, and was used for a while in English furniture and then abandoned, but used for a much longer period of time in America. It was more popular in America than it was anywhere else for a longer period of time. Interestingly, furniture with a ball and claw foot is now commonly referred to as Chippendale. You've probably referred to furniture that way yourself. Thomas Chippendale never designed a single piece of furniture with a ball and claw foot. If you buy his book and look throughout the book, there's not a single ball and claw piece of furniture in his design book. Now, this is not to say that in his shop he might not have made pieces of furniture with a ball and claw foot on it, but that's because it was just popular at the time, and he, just like every other professional, had to do what people wanted. But he didn't design anything with a ball and claw foot in it, and yet it's come to be called sort of the icon of what we call Chippendale furniture today. Now, the first thing I thought I'd show you is the process of bandsawing out the blank, because I do it a little bit differently. There are advantages and disadvantages to being self-taught. You can imagine most of the disadvantages. You have to learn everything by trial and error, but every now and then you come up with an innovative way of doing something that is not orthodox. And I think that this is something that I've done with ball and claw, or with all cabriole legs. Perhaps those of you who've made cabriole legs were confronted with the orthodox method of attaching the wings to the leg is to go ahead and cut out the leg first, and then try to attach the wing after the fact. And you have to clamp it in place and then shape it after the rest of the leg is shaped. And that's difficult all across the board. It's hard to clamp a shape like this in place. Then you've got to shape all of that. You've got to remove a lot of stock on this odd, difficult to hold piece. So I came up with a way of attaching the blocks first. Now, I've already cut out this pattern, but what I did, and I don't know if is the camera going to follow me, or do I need to think about the camera? So I've just laid, this is just a scrap block, so I've laid this out as if the mortises were already cut. So we imagine that the mortises are already cut in the leg. Then I glued 2 square blocks to the blank. I've already sawed the profile onto these, but when I glued them on, they were square, so there's no trouble to clamp that into place, okay? Then I laid the pattern for the wing on the back side of the wing and marked it out and bandsawed it. So that's the condition, that's the state that we're into now, with the profiles of the wings having been cut out. Now you can probably imagine what the problem is. In gluing over, in putting the block on the pattern, we glue over the layout lines for part of the cut, because you always lay out your patterns back to back on your blank. So now we've covered over part of the pattern to cut out. So how do we get that back? Well, here's how I do it. Take another scrap block, just lay it up here, and scribe out the pattern of the wing block on it. You see I've already cut it out. I've cut out the negative, the male-female portion of that. Then I lay my pattern back on this. To get the shape of the knee, and I'm able to lay this now on top of the wing. And there's a right and left, so there's a knee shape on either face. So now we'll proceed to cut out this leg. Now another thing I wanted to show you is that you'll see various methods promoted as to how to cut these out. Another issue is that once you've cut one face, you can see that you've removed stock and you've also cut away the pattern on the other face. So the question is how to keep all that in line, or how to keep all that on there. Some people recommend nails. You nail wood back on. I'm not too fond of that idea with bandsaw. Some people tape it in place. I use these hinges I'm going to show you that I do. And so I've left about a 1/16 of an inch there, and I can back out of this cut more easily now because I can pinch here, and that opens up the cut. So normally you don't back out of a curved cut, but because I can pinch this, it opens up that cut and lets me back out more easily. So I think that's a better way of doing it than trying to glue the wing block on after the fact. Okay, now, on a ball and claw foot, first thing that we want to do is lay out a couple of circles on the bottom. Actually, a lot of times I don't cut away these. I'm only going to lay out one circle now because I've already cut away these four little cutaways here. So that pretty well determines where the ball hits the floor. If I hadn't cut those away, I'd draw a circle that equals that. I'm sorry. I don't really need to draw any circles here. I'm gonna do it, but if I hadn't cut those away, I'd draw a circle that matched the outside diameter of the whole foot. And then I draw a circle that matches this diameter, which I would do. That's the diameter where the ball hits the floor. Now, the ball and claw foot that I do whenever I'm left to my own devices is it's not my own making, but it's sort of an adaptation that I've done of a combination of the Philadelphia and the Boston style. It's Philadelphia in its shape and its arrangement of the knuckles relative to the ball. It's Boston or New England in that the back claw sweeps back a little bit. So the back claw, I'm sorry, not the back claw, the side claws. The side claws don't end up right on the diameter line. They end up a little further back. And what this creates is it creates a sense of tension that the claw is really having to work hard to hold on to that ball. And I like the tension that comes out of that. And we add a little bit more of that sense of tension by putting a little swell in the web of the claw as well, so that it's bent down over the ball. So out here on the front, the claw will come down right along the diameter line. And on the back, the claw will come down right on the diameter line. On either side, the claw will come back just a little bit. So I'm just drawing it back to this, tending toward the rear. Okay? So I've got those positions laid out.
Can you show the camera?
Actually, that camera's brighter.
But when I start, I work slowly around, all the way around the foot, getting a sense of where everything lines up. And then as I get into it, I can carve one face almost completely before I go to the next face. But we're going to work all the way around because we haven't got this innate sense of where every surface finally is. So that's what I'm going to recommend to you too, that you always, when you start out, that you work slowly around the foot and around, taking away. Like Michelangelo said, it's very simple. You just cut away everything that doesn't look like an angel. Or in this case, you just cut away everything that doesn't look like a ball and claw foot. Okay, so we're going to start, I'm just going to start by keeping an eye on the circle down here. I don't want to cut when I get down to this point. I don't want to cut beyond my circle. This is a 60-degree V-tool. For this part of it, you don't really have to have the spoon shape. The spoon shape is helpful a little bit later, so I just brought one. I think we may throw a little bit of a... The more often you do this while you're carving, the longer you can go before even having to hone your tool.
Just leather strop.
Yes, leather strop with compound on it, green compound. Now there's something about the V-tool is the hardest tool in the box to sharpen. It's a real problem. And the reason is that the V-tool, let me bring it in here. Yeah. The V-tool is really three tools in one. It's two flat chisels, but they don't come to an absolute V at the bottom. They come to a tiny little gouge. And so if you try to sharpen it as if it's just two flat surfaces, you're going to end up with one of two things. You're going to either end up with a little holiday here at the bottom, or you're going to end up with a little bird's beak. And both of those are undesirable. So when it comes to the bottom, you hone or strop as if it's a little gouge at the bottom. You see how I'm rotating the tool? I'm always amazed at how much better the tool cuts after I strop. the backside, we can come out a little bit without having to. I'm going to go ahead and mark the location of the web. Again, I'm watching my circle here. I don't want to drop, I don't want to cut below my circle. Okay, on the front, our web rises up, I measure there about 1 13/16. So I'm going to measure up 1 13/16. High points of the ball. I don't know how many of you have tried carving, but if you have, hopefully you've discovered that there's really a lot more control involved in using a mallet with your chisel than there is in pushing. Because in pushing you end up putting so much pressure behind the cut that there's always the possibility of going, ah! Now, there's a way you can control that. You can push with your dominant hand and put your other hand on and grasp around it like this, ready to act as like a brake. If the cut starts to get out of control, you can just clamp down on the. But you see how I'm still, with all of that, I'm still running into, at this point, the waste part of the web. But the control, there are plenty of times when you will use your hand to pair like this. But a mallet blow only sends the tool as far as each individual mallet's stroke. So there's, you see, I'm advancing about 1/16 of an inch with each blow, but there's no tendency to overrun the cut. Now I'm pretty well down to my circle at the bottom. I'm starting out here and taking a little curve back. This one is more straight. Already I'm thinking about the fact that web wants to be stretched over the ball. It just doesn't. So I'm cutting back at two angles to keep that going. We'll do one more round here. Nowadays, when you buy a tool, a carving tool, they're generally pretty sharp. Almost all of them could be sharper. One of the things that you want to look for is a completely polished edge. Inside and out, you want to see no signs of grinding marks, no matter how fine they are. If there are, and this is true of all your tools, you've got a chisel, you can have a really wonderfully polished bevel, but if you see any sign whatsoever of grinding marks on the backside, you've got saw teeth out on the edge, right? And if we think about a sawtooth, it's sharp right out at the edge, out at the point, but by definition, down in the gullet, it's dull. It's flat in there. Now these little saw teeth are very fine. They are everywhere there's a grinding mark. So there may only be a couple of thousandths, maybe 3/1000ths of an inch. That's 300ths. Between those marks, but nevertheless, there's still a sawtooth. Now, you know, we've all probably seen the micro photos of a really sharp edge, and it still looks kind of like this, doesn't it? It's not perfect, but at least it's not a regular series of saw teeth with a flat gullet at the back of them. So at the very least, with your tools, when you get them, you want to look and see that all the grinding marks are taken away from the edge. Now, you know, you can get back a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch, and it's not so important. But with a gouge, for example, you might start with a dowel and some 220 grit sandpaper and start working that and work up to about 1,000 grit sandpaper to get rid of those grinding marks inside. It's easier to hone on the outside. When I'm honing a carving tool, I tend to do it just like the way you saw me strop. I tend to take the tool, hold the tool, use the stone this way rather than trying to do this. Now, that's just me. I'm not going to be dogmatic about you could do it this way. For me, it's a lot easier to keep an eye on the edge with it positioned here in front of me this way. But that's only on the outside. The inside has to be worked with dowels and sandpaper. Or you can buy slips that sometimes help. This is very helpful in the honing process. You've probably all seen this it's just a little block of MDF, or this is not even MDF, this is just some kind of wood that's been shaped like this. You put compound on it, and it's useful for stropping the final surfaces. But I always do recommend stropping in the end, even a brand new tool. A brand new tool can stand to be stropped with 25 strokes or so. And if you want proof of that, just take the tool, put it through a piece of wood, and then strop it and put it through a piece of wood. And the difference will be astounding. I just commented on it after I stropped my V-tool. So the tools want to be prepared that way. Again, if you buy a decent set of tools, at least Woodcraft's Swiss made. If you buy a decent set of tools, the edge is going to be shaped pretty much like it ought to be. But in my experience, the bevels tend to be a little too short. If you're going to revise your tools at all, you're going to run the bevel back farther to make it sharper. You may be only talking about a 20-degree bevel. Now, I don't hold to any idea of being precisely 20 degrees, measuring it with some kind of gauge. That's not essential. It could be 19, it could be 22. But you're going for finesse, not brute force. Even when you're tapping with the mallet, you're not really putting. You're tapping. You're not whanging. As far as grain is concerned, I think every woodworker is aware of the fact that you want to rub the kitty in the right direction. You know that analogy? Or the analogy of the bundle of soda straws? You don't want to, if you're holding a bundle of soda straws in your hand, you want to cut up into the end of the soda straws, not starting at the ends of the soda straws and cut it down. So with your grain, you've got, if the grain is going this direction, you want to cut uphill. That direction. You don't want to come against this will tend to cut down into the grain and pull it up. Well, the problem with carving is sometimes the only direction you can go is against the grain. But the best strategy that works at least 3 out of 4 times when you're forced with the necessity of cutting against the grain is to cut straight across the grain. Sometimes you're rotating the tool as you push it through the cut so that you're creating another slicing action that helps when you're going against the grain. I can demonstrate it on this. I'm going to start with the tool with the face open in this direction. See how I'm rotating the tool? Of course, I'm going very much with the grain in this cut. This way, I'll start with the face open toward me. And rotate the tool. That sometimes helps. When you're dealing with a cabriole leg, you want to maintain, for strength purposes mainly, you want to maintain a straight column from the bottom of the foot all the way to the top of the leg. The curve doesn't want to be so exaggerated that it completely cuts through. So in this leg, for example, I'd say there's probably a straight column 5/8 of an inch in diameter that extends from the bottom of the foot up through the ankle and up through this portion up to the top. Now, I won't say that you don't occasionally see cabriole legs that violate that principle, but they're inviting snapping at the short grain if you put that in. So this probably illustrates it better. This is not exactly this pattern, but it's a pattern that I brought. I think you can see a continuous you don't want to exaggerate your curves so much that you violate that completely. And you can lay that in there. I'd say a half of an inch of column would be minimum that you want to keep in there. Did you think of any questions while we were sitting down, while we were taking a rest?
What kind of wood is that blade you're working on?
It's poplar.
Why did you get softwood?
I wish I'd chosen some basswood, but I didn't have it. Start to see the angel coming out of the wood now, can't you? One of the things that at this point you want to be most concerned about is keeping the concentricity of the ball. That is, you want to be constantly looking at what you've done and making sure that the ball that goes underneath the claw on this side looks like it's the same ball that's coming out from the claw on the other side. Let's take this out and point it at the camera in such a way that you can see that. Does it still look pretty much like this ball and this ball are the same ball? Well, you've got to constantly keep that in mind and be checking on that. Because one of the quickest ways that you can spoil a ball and claw is to get one of these too far down, and before long you're whittling the other side, and you've got a golf ball in there. Yeah. A marble. you can see me going straight across the grain here in these places, like I mentioned. Now, this is an example of, for a moment, you're going against the grain. You can't get away with it for long. But if you think about it, see, I'm going into the grain, so I can get that cut started, but now I've got to come back around here. Now I'm starting into the grain in the opposite direction. So I have to come back here. Ball and claw foot is full of opposite. You see how that's starting to chip up right there? Let's see, I don't know if the little camera's picking that up.
Yeah. This one is.
That's as far as I can go with that before I start to pop away wood that I don't want to pop away. So now I've got to come up here. And again, I'm spending a lot of time looking to make sure that I'm not cutting more of the ball away than I ought to keep for the continuity of the ball as well. On this example, our back knuckle is 1.1 inches from the floor. Yeah, I just use a regular, this is just a regular bench chisel. I have a carver skew chisel, which is slightly different in that on a carver skew chisel, the bevel is curved. It's convex. It's not a flat bevel. And that's useful when when you need to make one of these kinds of rotating cuts in the rotating sweeps in the cut, the cut fulcrums off of that convex bevel better. But
How do you keep something like that sharpened with a curve like that?
a lot of detail work with a chisel is best done with the bevel down. I don't know if you've tried that in your own work, but you don't always have to put the flat back of the chisel down in order to get good work out of it. You notice here that I'm putting the bevel down. Let's see here. On the side knuckle, the first knuckle is 7/8 off the ground, and the second knuckle is 1 3/4. So
Could you tell us what the numbers stand for on the carving chisels?
yes, it's a fairly arbitrary system, and it's only consistent from one brand to another. For example, a number 4 sweep in one brand might be slightly different than a number 4 sweep in another brand. But here's what it amounts to. You start with a flat chisel. That's it. You start with a flat chisel. That's a number 1. And then you put a slight curve into it, and so forth. You put more of a curve. I'm kind of exaggerating the shift. Till you get to the U shape. So this would probably be a number 4 actually in reality. This would be a number 6. This would be a number 8. And the U shape, called a veiner, also called a veiner. The U shape is a number 11. There's shapes all in between. And so then if in a given radius or a given arc, it doesn't matter what size. Let's say we're going to do number 4s. Actually, I'm changing the curve, and that does not happen. We're pretending like these are all the same arc. So if this is a number 4, then the smallest chisel would be a 2 millimeter. Okay? That is the width of the tool. And so forth up. 4 millimeters, 6 millimeters, 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters, and so forth, up to the max of about 25 millimeters. They get bigger than that, but generally speaking. So a chisel is described by two numbers. This would be this would be a number 4 fishtail by 12 millimeters. 12 millimeters being the width, roughly, being the width of the tool. Number 4 being the sweep. This one here, this one is marked right on the, this is a Swiss made, they tend to be marked. This is a number 9, 10. So there's, it doesn't show up very well, but there's the 9 sweep. Let's see if I can, there we go. There's the 9 sweep, and it's 10 millimeters wide. Okay? That's how chisels are numbered. Now, again, a number 4 in a Two Cherries brand and a number 4 in a Swiss made brand might be slightly different. It's just according to that company's exact definition of what a sweep is. But generally speaking, you can move in one direction or another off of the exact sweep. I could use a number 3 here for the same thing that I'm using this number 4. Did that answer your question? Okay, so I've got my knuckles marked, so I can start to do these little hollowing cuts between them. Now here, where I'm thinking about the S-curve that I want to leave right here. I want to see a little bit of an S-curve right in here. So as I'm taking away material, I'm scooping out at the bottom and then letting it ride out to the high spot at the top. We can leave that for now and turn over to a front place. And I would get a number one SKU. That is flat and shaped like this. I would get a 60-degree V-tool, 8 to 10 millimeters. I would get a 30-degree V-tool, 4 millimeters. I would get a number 5 gouge, $10. I would get a number 3 gouge, 4 millimeters. And, I mean, this is, you can vary it a little bit. I would get the number 8 gouge, 6 to 7 millimeters. I would get the number 11 gouge. Actually, that's called a vein. Let's say 8 millimeters. I would get the number 11 vein, 3 millimeters. What other 4 would I get? I get a number 3 gouge. Well, millimeters. And number 5 gouge. 12 millimeters. I get a back bent number 4, 10 millimeters. I get a
All the time.
scale number 5, 10 millimeters. That'd be a good start. But if you get into it, you never stop buying. I've probably got 200 at this point. And of those 200, 50 of them I'll use once every 4 years. But you'll come across you'll have a project and you'll come across a cut that just demands a tool that you don't have. Tapper have a lot of them?
If not, they're gonna wreck.
One thing that you'll notice happening is, you're doing this right. You'll, right here at the apex of the ball on every facet, on every four faces, you'll have a flat that stays flat almost till the very end. If you cut that flat away too early, you're already starting to cut your ball too small. And just as you shape the ball, you'll get into that flat more and more, and take away more and more of it, until there's just that one little point on the apex of the ball. When you've got it, look when it looks like you want it to. That's what Michelangelo was saying. Just carve away everything that doesn't look like an angel. Now, one of the things that I like to encourage newcomers to the ball and claw is to take this deeper than you think you want to right here. This is a pretty deep spot. This is a pretty deep spot here, and it's not a straight taper up to the ankle. It goes in pretty deep, and it involves a lot of aggressive cutting, which newcomers tend to be a little reluctant to do. In fact, I brought a spoon that enables that a little bit better. Here's where that the tension on the webbing comes into play. Again, taking away that that material toward the back of the deepest part of the web. Excuse me, leaving it rounded over the ball at the front creates that sense of real tension, real exertion on the part of the bird or whatever. Now, here's where a back bent. This is a back bent chisel. You see the bevel is on the back side of the bend. This is very handy for getting rounding over Our front knuckle, the first knuckle is it's 7/8, and the second knuckle is 2 inches. 7/8 and 2 inches. Between the knuckles, you're carving in a convex area where the tendon, the claw meets the ball. At this point, when you're reducing the size of the claw to the final dimension, you want to take everything off of the side of the claw, not anymore off the ball, in order to keep that ball round and to keep the continuity of it. And I can see here that I've got a little more material on this side of the ball. And I have over here. half the time you don't even see an actual claw down at the bottom. You notice on this one that this is where, this is more like a Philadelphia foot. There's no fingernail. Some of them do have a fingernail. I tend to prefer it without. I'll leave a little bit of that flat on this unfinished side to show my point. Okay, so there is a back and one front face finished. And I'll leave the other two partially done so you can get a sense of the process. Let's clean up here a little. Let's see. Post that. That's basically the process.